On this episode of Blast from the Past, we take a look at the 90s era Sovtek Big Muff. A huge influence on me when I was first starting out in the summer of 1993 playing guitar was the Smashing Pumpkins, and to that end, I always sought the sound of the Siamese Dream records specifically, not really knowing what it was until I read an interview with Billy Corgan, noting that it was this pedal called the Big Muff. And I went out and I sourced me a Big Muff, not knowing there was different versions and iterations and a whole history by the time 1994 hit. However, 1994 also saw the launch of the new at the time Green Russian Big Muff Pi, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And before we go any further, this video is brought to you by the fine folks over at Sweetwater and the used section, the Gear Exchange. Gear Exchange is where you can literally find all the weird, wild, and wonderful things in the gear world in one place. I will link down below in the description if you'd like to go peruse for yourself. All thoughts and opinions are mine. So the Big Muff I have here today is the 90s era Russian Sovtek Electro-Harmonix Big Muff V7. This is technically the third edition. There were 3 different editions of this one because as parts and supplies changed, they did change. Now, notice this is a 6-screw housing. This has 4 screw-on feet, rubber feet, and a metal battery compartment. Now, my original Big Muff that I had, that I bought new in 1994, had really bad, just square pieces of rubber glued to the bottom of the housing and a plastic door that pretty much broke instantly. And my outstanding memory of buying this pedal when it was brand new was, this thing's kind of a hunk of junk. But none of that really mattered once you plugged it in because it sounded so good and so roaring and so aggressive and in your face. Now, most would describe the V7 Big Muff as having a little less low end than its predecessors, including the Civil War version, the V6. However, this is also a little bit more of a scooped thing going on versus its predecessors. So this just is a very unique kind of Big Muff circuit, I guess. Very noisy, but also the foot switch is just archaic and it sounds like a military vehicle. And it is not, so there is a gap between the switching as well. I distinctly remember that, trying to play along to parts and not having a clean switch, because it does pause and break the sound for just a second, depending on how fast you're stomping on this thing. So naturally, being a 14-year-old kid, I would stomp on this and I would inevitably break them. I broke 3 of these things when they were brand new. So the fact that this thing has survived the last 30 plus years is actually incredible. Now, a couple of cool things to note. The input is on the opposite side of where you would see on most pedals. I don't know why that is, but it is a thing. So the output is on the right-hand side. Now, the second cool thing about the V7 Big Muff is they came in a pine box. How Russian military evocative is this? The pine box itself was very functional and the lid simply just slides off. Now, normally you don't see, if you're gonna see any of these V7 Big Muffs, some of them do have the pine box. A lot of them do not have the pine box. So the fact that I was able to find this on Gear Exchange in the box, it's pretty incredible. Someone called Josh Scott. Now, back in 1994, if I remember correctly, these things were right around, I think, $75 or $100. They weren't more than $100, I don't think. And because, I was literally working a paper route, 14 years old, affording these things. And when I would break one, I would just go and get another one. And it didn't seem like a big deal to me at the time. Now, keep in mind, I hadn't yet discovered that there was an entire history of the Electro-Harmonix stuff yet. I was like a year away from discovering the New York, the original 70s metal housing versions of the Electro-Harmonix pedal line. But at the time, this is all I knew. I knew this and a DoD Supra distortion and a wah pedal and a Boss phaser. Those were the only things I really knew kind of existed. Now let's go ahead and plug this thing in. I'm going to use my 90 Strat with lace sensor pickups in it, and we're going to go into the low input of my Marshall 2204 JMP from 1977, just like Billy would have done for the Siamese Dream record. And yeah, let's get some tones with this thing, shall we? Okay, so we have the Sovtek Big Muff here on the desk. I'm not gonna play yet, but just listen to this foot switch. I don't know if you can hear that, or is that even coming through the microphone? However, it's just this big, clunky, industrial sounding switch, right? It's just crank. Also notice the input is on the left side and the output is on the right side. I don't know why this is. I suspect it has something to do with just simply the orientation and design of the board itself. And it's in upside down basically for the pots to come through the housing, maybe? Just a theory. I don't know why. However, here we have it. So I am using my 94 Strat, my childhood guitar, with the lace sensors that are, you know, the Billy Corgan approved config with the lace sensor red in the bridge. And I'm going into my 77 Marshall JMP 2204 50 watt head, and I'm going into the low input, the clean input, the Smashing Pumpkins input. It's not called that, but that's what I call it. So here's my bass tone. The sound, right? Let's check out the Big Muff. Now, I recently did a video recreating my childhood rig, and I had for that video the New York City regular Big Muff Pi, right, with the same guitar. This is decidedly different. This is a much more scooped muff, and this was my favorite out of all of them. This circuit, the Silver War / green Big Muff, it is my favorite muff by far. The other one's cool. This one has a smoothness, and I like the scoop in this circuit. When I was a kid, this was just it for me, and I used to sit there and play Smashing Pumpkins riffs. You could really hear the tonality kind of shift with the tone control. Let's play with that a little bit. I'm also gonna turn up the fuzz, because why not? Trying to think of some Pumpkins riffs in drop D. I don't know any off the top of my head. I only know like Geek USA and Today and Quiet and all that kind of stuff, which require me to be in standard tuning, which I am not. Or could do just full on stoner rock kind of riffs. I generally prefer the tone control about noon. I always did. That's the tone. That's of my childhood, not of anything in particular, but that's the sound. That's the sound. It's the Big Muff. So what do I think? This thing's pretty cool. The fact that this is a fully functioning unit is also pretty cool as well. Now, on the used market, hilariously, if you can find a working version of the V7 Big Muff, these things will set you back used about $600 to $700, just depending on overall condition, if it has the box or not, etc., etc. However, if you were looking for a less expensive, more reliable alternative, EHX makes a fantastic version of this pedal in a much smaller housing, and it'll run you about 90 bucks, and it's phenomenal. So take that for what you will. This pedal has been famously used by Dan from the Black Keys. I saw the guys in Lagwagon on the Double Platinum tour, and they had these giant green Big Muffs on the stage as well. This has been used by a ton of people. Yeah, pretty cool, pretty saucy pedal. I will link down below in the description if you'd like to know more about the Sovtek Big Muff, or go shopping for yourself over on the Gear Exchange. And with that, you've been wonderful, I've been Fluff. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.